I would say essentially what it means is that big countries can do what they want, and unfortunately their geographical neighbors have to suck it up.
I just changed the language a bit. It's important to emphasize that great powers are remarkably nervous about their security almost all of the time. They tend to see threats everywhere. And if you're a smaller country and you live in the neighborhood of a great power, you have to go to great lengths to make sure you don't anger that great power, because if you do, the anger will cause the great power to try to crush you. And because it's a great power and it's much more powerful than you as a minor power, the likelihood that you will end up getting crushed or hurt badly is great.
You know, I've not been on this planet forever, but I've seen a couple of wars in my time, and those were also illegal invasions. Let's talk about Iraq, or maybe even Syria, Afghanistan, and I understand you can always make the argument why they went there, but still it was an illegal invasion. And there were never any repercussions of this sort. There was never an uproar of this sort. Maybe Iraq, because I was a little young, 2003, I think there was a lot of protests in Germany, which is why they didn't join in, which I think is a good thing that they didn't. But with all the other wars that we've seen, there was never anything like this. The reaction with Ukraine is immense. And I just don't understand why invading Ukraine is so much worse than invading all the other countries. I just don't understand. I find it a little bit hypocritical, to be honest.
Well, there's 2 points I would make. One is that I think most people believed that we would never again see a great power war in Europe, that war had been burned out of Europe. Yes, you could have these minor political entities or minor states fighting with each other in the Balkans, but the idea that you would have a great power war in Europe was just unthinkable. That was ancient history. And what you have here is a great power war. And you have a serious possibility of nuclear weapons being used. And you have a serious possibility of the United States and Russia fighting against each other. And one could argue that the United States is really effectively at war with Russia. It's just that the Ukrainians are doing the fighting. But we are so deeply involved that it is a U.S.-Russian war.
Like a proxy war? That's what some people call it?
I think it's much more than a proxy war.
But didn't we have that in Syria as well?
No, this is much different. This is much different. The United States is really deeply involved in this one. But the point is, even if that's true, that the United States is just fighting a proxy war, it's not that deeply involved. John's overstating the case. Even if that's true, the fact is Russia is a great power, and it is in a major war in Ukraine. This was unthinkable, right? So it's very important to understand that the shock value of this war is just much different than any of the wars that have preceded it since the end of the Cold War. And again, in the Cold War, we had nothing like this. Just important to understand that. I mean, the Soviets did invade Hungary in '56 and Czechoslovakia in '68, but that's a completely different matter, right? This is a major war. And the United States didn't do anything in '56 and didn't do anything in '68. The United States is involved big time here. So that's the first reason that this really matters and has people in the West exercised. I mean, people in Germany here are very concerned about the precedent, right? If this isn't condemned, if the Russians don't pay a price, don't we run the risk that there'll be another war involving Russia or even another country in Europe? So that's reason one. The second reason that this one has attracted so much attention is that the Russophobia in the West over the past 10 years has reached a level that is just hard to fathom. And this is especially true in the United States. And when you talk about Russophobia, there is no Russian who's worse than Vladimir Putin. he is seen as the font of all evil in the West. So when the Russians invade Ukraine, right, it just confirms all the worst suspicions that so many people in the West, especially the United States, have about Russians and have about Putin in particular. And just one additional point there, the Democratic Party especially hates Vladimir Putin because the Democratic Party believes, foolishly, that the reason Hillary Clinton lost to Donald Trump is because Putin intervened on behalf of Trump against Clinton.
Wasn't that already debunked?
No, not in the minds of most Democrats. Most Democrats are incapable of admitting that Hillary Clinton was a terrible candidate and Trump was a very sophisticated candidate. Whether you like him or not, he was a sophisticated candidate. She was a terrible candidate, and he beat her fair and square. And it was not due to Vladimir Putin. But Democrats don't think that. Well, Joe Biden is a Democrat. The Democratic Party is basically in control of both the Senate and the House. And the media, the mainstream media in the United States, is filled with people who suffer from acute Russophobia. So once Putin invades on February 24th, it's going to be, a tsunami of anti-Russian propaganda that comes spilling out of the media and out of the White House and out of Western capitals or out of European capitals as well. So this is, I think, what accounts for the fact that you've had this total breakdown of relations between Russia on one side and the West on the other, and why I was saying to you before, it'll be a long, long time. I'll be long gone by the time, relations between Russia and the West get back to where they were, let's say in 2013 or 2012.
Well, I guess I'd hope you're wrong.
I hope I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. I hope that many of the things I've said today are proved wrong.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Professor, for your time. And like I just said, I do kind of hope you're wrong. Yeah, I guess. Thank you.
You're welcome, Jasmine.